Welcome to The Explainer. We are living through a massive, massive historical pivot right now. It's a complete shift from the old internet era to the new AI era. But here's the thing. Most of us are totally misunderstanding what this shift actually means for the stuff we build and use every single day. We're stubbornly applying these old, outdated metrics to a brand new reality, and honestly, it's leading to some insanely expensive strategic mistakes. So let's dive in and fix that. Okay, here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the jump from distribution to cognition. Then, we'll hit the engagement inversion, the input certainty framework, discovery versus execution, and finally, how we go about measuring cognitive leverage. All right, kicking things off with section 1, from distribution to cognition. So, to really wrap our heads around where we are right now, I want you to think back to the year 1885, right? When electricity was first introduced, it didn't just replace the steam engine in a factory. It completely changed what a factory could even do and who could run it economically. It was a total game changer. Today, with AI, it's kind of the same story. The infrastructure is there, but the restructuring of mental labor, that has barely even begun. The real winners in this space aren't just going to look for tiny marginal efficiencies. No, they're going to redesign their entire cognitive architecture from the ground up. And the contrast between these two eras is just absolutely stark. Think about it. In the internet era, the cost of reach completely collapsed towards zero. The companies that won big were the ones that mastered distribution and logistics. They were amazing at moving information and capturing eyeballs at a massive scale. But in the AI era, the cost of thinking is what's collapsing towards zero. So the new winners will be the ones who master cognition loops and structured output. What this all boils down to is that economic leverage just isn't about connecting eyeballs anymore. It is entirely about amplifying human reasoning. As the saying goes, we are moving from reaching people to thinking better. That right there is the fundamental difference in how we create value today. Moving right along to section 2, the engagement inversion. For a solid 2 decades, the whole tech industry operated on a really simple but ultimately flawed proxy. Time equals value. We all just kind of assumed that high engagement meant a product was successful. But let's be real for a second. And this scrolling, it often just masked friction. A user trapped in an infinite feed was usually failing to find what they actually needed. We were measuring captured attention, not actual value being delivered. Think about this dynamic through the lens of hiring a top-tier management consultant. You don't pay a McKinsey strategist thousands of dollars just to have endless rambling chats with you, right? Like some overly talkative conversationalist? No way. You pay them to act as a pocket strategist. You want them to absorb your messy data, process it silently in the background, and then hand you a clean, prioritized, decision-ready artifact. That minimal engagement, the fact that they do the heavy lifting so you don't have to, is exactly what you're paying for. Now, let's jump into section 3, the input certainty framework. If you want to build effectively in this new era, you absolutely have to understand this concept of input certainty. Simply put, it's asking, how well defined is a problem before the actual work even begins? If the task is completely ambiguous, you're dealing with low input certainty. But if it's highly structured, like say a strict compliance review, you have high input certainty. And getting this right is absolutely crucial because it dictates everything about how your AI products should be designed. The golden rule here is beautifully simple. Master inputs to master cognition. By accurately figuring out the input certainty of whatever your user is trying to do, you make sure your product doesn't totally miscalibrate. Imagine offering open-ended brainstorming to a user who just desperately wants a fast, accurate data summary. You completely destroy the value of your own tool. This perfectly sets up section 4, discovery versus execution. Here is the core tension we really need to talk about. On one hand, you have generative discovery. When certainty is low, the AI acts as a thought multiplier. In this case, long, deep engagement sessions, those are actually a great thing. You're exploring. But then, look at deterministic execution. When certainty is high, the AI needs to act as a compression engine. In this mode, engagement is a strict cost. If your user is stuck doing endless prompting, it means your tool is failing, period. So you really have to ask yourself, is the AI doing the work or you? This is the ultimate commercial reality check for your pricing strategy and, frankly, whether anyone will actually pay for your product. If you're selling an execution tool, but your user still has to spend an hour babysitting the AI and tweaking prompts just to get a usable result, well, the net time saved is basically zero. The AI isn't doing the work, it's just redistributing the burden right back to the user. No one wants that. All right, bringing it home with Section 5, Measuring Cognitive Leverage. It is wild to see how the North Star metrics completely invert when you look through this framework. In the old distribution era, keeping people on your platform for as long as possible was the ultimate goal. But if we look at deterministic execution, the goal becomes the non-engagement rate. You literally want fewer prompts. Applying an internet era mindset to a compression mode AI product is just a fatal error. Now, despite those massive differences between discovery and execution, there are three metrics that hold absolute truth across any kind of cognitive work. First up, the strategic repeat rate. Are users coming back voluntarily because they have a brand new problem for you to solve? Second, output actionability. Is the final thing you give them actually immediately usable? And third, the memory flywheel. If your system remembers context so the user doesn't have to endlessly re-explain themselves, you are building a massive, massive structural advantage. You really need to step back and measure cognitive leverage. We have to stop obsessing over how long users stay on our platforms. Instead, start tracking how confidently they can take action based on what you give them, and how reliably they come back to you for their next heavy mental lift. So I'll leave you with this. Take a really hard look at the tools you're building, or even just using right now. Are you building a system that demands cognitive labor, or one that truly absorbs it? Do they demand more of your time, or do they actually absorb that complexity and give you your time back? Reevaluate what you're actually measuring. Because confusing a compression engine with a conversationalist, that is hands down the most expensive strategic mistake you can make in the AI era. Are you building for distribution, or are you finally building for cognition?